Get it together.
Welcome back to Setting the Screen, everyone. A Jeff Needs Help production. No. We were not part of the blip. We've just been really busy the last few weeks. But we did not stop watching the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We did not stop taking notes. We did not stop discussing it. And we are here for a season recap. And I've got the best in the business with me, my partner, the guy that's been with me it's been like 3 months now that we've been working on these Marvel shows, and it's been a quite a journey, and I've enjoyed it. Stephen Gillespie, everyone. How are you, Stephen?
Hey, what's going on, Jeff? Appreciate you having me on as always, man. It has been a long time since we've done this, and it's been, on one side, I'm happy that I've had a little less busy of a schedule, but on the other end, like, I love connecting with you and dissecting these great shows that the MCU has given us.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on. And first of all, if you're a first-time listener, thank you very much. If you're a long-time listener, thanks for coming back. We did not abandon you.
No.
We have kept up on the show. We have discussed it back and forth. We have bounced ideas off each other. Me and Steven are both part of the Off the Ball Network. We've had a ton of stuff going on, and but we could not do this show, and I'm so excited about it. And here we go. So knee-jerk reaction, Steven.
Oh man. Dude, it's just for one, I think that the Marvel Universe spoiled us with starting us with WandaVision. And yeah. I feel like as much as like you and Rob just had hated it, I loved it so much. And I just thought it was just such a different type of show. You know what I mean? And like, I loved the Falcon and Winter Soldier. It just didn't have that like special uniqueness to it, if that makes sense. It felt like it was it felt more of a continuation from the MCU, where WandaVision almost felt like a standalone, if that makes sense. I still liked it.
Ooh, that's a great observation already.
Yeah, I liked it a lot, and obviously we're doing a show about it, so I hope that kind of ferments where I stand as far as watching these shows. It was, if it makes sense. It was a fine show. I liked it. I liked a lot of aspects about it, but as I'm sure we're going to talk about, there were some aspects that I wish that they would have taken a little bit more advantage of, to kind of help it feel more so like it's like one of those standalone type shows. But overall, the overall direction of it, the plot of it, the character development of some of the people, I thought was outstanding, and I can't wait to talk more about it.
Oh yeah. Mine was I got we're a little bit on different pages with this. We talked about this a lot in the WandaVision. Anybody who doesn't know, me and Steven and our partner Rob Cruz did the whole WandaVision series week by week. You can go back and listen to that on Jeff Needs Help Too. Really a lot of fun. And so I'm a little towards the other direction of this was finally after all the MCU stuff that was the cosmic stuff and the Thanos stuff and all of these things, outside of maybe Ant-Man was a little boots on the ground, this was the series that I needed. I didn't need my mind to be blown. I needed like terrestrial, on Earth, realistic, villains, bad guys, fighting, like, close quarters fighting, all that stuff. And this gave me exactly what I wanted. And then I think I didn't know they would go as deep as they did. And that really pleased me. And I didn't think they would go in one season as far into the multiple Captain America saga that I thought they would, which I think that there's a huge percentage of the, people that watch the show that probably didn't know that this existed outside of Steve
Sure.
Rogers. So my knee jerk was that it actually was as good as I wanted it to be, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy about that. Yes, it of course it has its flaws. It's impossible to make comic book content that doesn't have flaws because they're
Absolutely.
ridiculous. Anybody that reads and I think that is a difference. People that read comics understand that this stuff is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I thought they did a pretty good job of giving us both. Like, this is a television series, and every now and then, push the envelope there with ridiculousness. But yeah, I
So if I could just
really enjoyed
continue
it.
with my knee jerk, um, and Kenneth, I'm sorry, but
Yeah, this
you're in
is
the wrong place. This is
thank you,
spoiler
Kenneth, for
filled.
bringing that up. This is spoiler filled. That we're spoiling that. We're talking about the entire season here in depth, but we appreciate you tuning in.
So what I appreciated the most about this show is that the issues I think that it touched on more so than the comic book aspect of it, if that makes sense. I felt like this was an important show for a lot of reasons.
Yes.
Um, Obviously, the continuation of what do we do now that Steve Rogers isn't here. Obviously, this was titled, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So it's like, okay, how do these two work together? Picking up with Zemo, introducing new characters. I felt like the best parts of the show weren't necessarily about the MCU storyline. It was more so about the issues that the show touched on.
Yes. Yes. So we'll just jump right into storylines. Our next subject. I totally agree with you. There was more storylines than I thought there was going to be. I didn't think Zemo would come back. I did not think they would touch on the whole Black Captain America thing, which was probably the second, most important storyline as far as emphasized in the show. I was really surprised. If anything, in 6 episodes, I thought they could have had to squeeze things in, but I
Mm-hmm.
understand that also you have a budget and you have to get these things going, and you only have so much money. They didn't cut anything short. Yeah, it was pretty cool. So let's start with the storylines here, because I think there was more storylines than we get in a typical show. So
Mm-hmm.
so the overall storyline was about the refugees, and so it's essentially after the blip, which was 5 years, everybody came back. Well, in that 5 years, the people that remain, which is half of the population, I think it was, I don't know if they really did a great job of, you know, ex- telling us how many people were gone. Like, they were like, oh, people, to me, that was one of the flaws of the show. If we would talk about one, it felt like, oh, a few million people, or 10, no, half of the population
Billions.
disappeared.
Yeah.
And 5 years, yeah, billions. And 5 years was enough time that, I bet after, I would imagine to myself in the first year, okay, we're kind of holding out. They might come back. The second year, things start spreading out. Well, by year 4 or 5, basically people had essentially spread out, you know what I mean? And stretched their legs and moved across borders, and
Helped each other, sense of community.
yeah, and actually inhabited new houses and things like that. So then what happens, with the Hulk snap, half of the population appears back on Earth, and it's like, wait a minute, you know, we were here for 5 years waiting this out, and essentially it'd be no different than, anybody. They got back. I want to go back to my house. Well, somebody's living there. So it
Mhm.
was, I love the storyline, but do you think that they did enough to really stress, like how massive this was? That was the one thing that to me it was kind of a flaw of, like, I don't know if they really made us understand how big of a deal it was when half of the population comes back.
I felt like they tried, they implemented that whole like the global repatriation act or whatever, where
Yeah.
they were moving people back basically where they come from, and even that storyline is touching on real world stuff that we had, going on in our nation, a year or two back with our friends from the south of the border, coming up in droves wanting to enter America. And obviously, the former president didn't help himself out with the way that he talked about them, or the lack of remorse and stuff like that. And I felt like, again, this show had done a great job of touching on real world events and implementing them into a
Yes.
fictional world. Um, I did, while I think that they could have done better, I think also it's important to remember that this was only like 6 episodes long,
Yeah.
and you gotta talk about a whole bunch in this one thing. And maybe that was one of the flaws, is the oversaturation of points that they probably didn't spend enough time on. But I felt like they did it, at least for my viewership. I felt like they did a decent enough job, like implementing something that I never really considered. Like when we saw everyone come back, we just thought, oh, this is a happy ending, right? Because everyone who was gone for 5 years, everyone is just basically trying
Yeah.
to pick up the pieces. The only time that we ever heard about it really was when Captain America was playing therapy at the beginning of Endgame, right? And
Yeah.
he was sitting down just like trying to help people, with dating and stuff like that, like real world stuff that happens on a day-to-day basis that we may take advantage of. But I felt like, for the lack of overarching details, I feel like they did a decent job with this one little kind of niche segment in here. And another point to your thing, Jeff, is like, it was unfair for the people who for 5 years were there, but for the people who were snapped, remember, it only felt like a couple minutes. They didn't,
Oh
or
yeah.
an hour. They felt like they weren't gone very long at all.
Like they
And
took a
then they
nap.
come back, and then their whole life is upside down when they come
Mhm.
back. So from both aspects of it, you could understand, like, while there would be a little bit of a conflict, and why the government and world agencies would come together to be like, we need to fix this and reestablish the borders and everything else.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. I love the story itself, and I like how they implemented what happened in the MCU, but then gave it a real world feel. I was totally on board with it, and it really brings up stuff because the classic one is, essentially the example they use the most is, well, what about a person who's the person they live with didn't treat them that good, and then all of a sudden that person comes back into their life, like it wasn't
Hmm.
a happy ending for them. And that's the one that made me think like, oh, so like I you're right, they didn't have a ton of time to really build on that, and you had to think of it yourself. But I think the storyline itself for them to deal with it and not just act like, no, it was a happy ending, everything's fine. I think was I really like the move, and I think it worked. I really
Yeah.
think it worked, and you're right, with combined with the modern, like, real world political climate, it works really well, which most of their storylines did, which, WandaVision, we gave it a lot of credit for, tackling some serious stuff head on, and I think this show really dove into it and took some chances that, I think they could be really proud of. So, one of the other storylines was the Bucky. They kind of dug into Bucky's past and him trying to make amends, and it was, they didn't have a lot of time, but they touched on it, with him and his friend and all that. And I thought it was a weird, it was a thing for it was a storyline for a character that a lot of people don't know a ton about. So I think this was a tough one, but I don't begrudge him for doing it. What do you think of the Bucky storyline, just overall, the arc of it?
So overall, we talked on this, I think maybe episode 2, when I was saying that, like, overall, like, considering how long Bucky's been around, he hasn't had a lot of time to just be a guy. You
Oh,
know,
no.
he went
Yeah. Yeah,
he went go
he
ahead.
went in the ice at what, 20 years old in World
Yeah, it
War
was
II. Yeah.
frozen, became a mercenary. He unbecomes a mercenary, is on a run. Steve Rogers is the only one that believes in him. His best friend, you know, gets old and dies basically. And
Yeah.
then it's like, okay, now what? Like, I was called back for the Infinity War, the end game portion. So like he's still fighting at that part, and then that's over, and then it's basically now what, and part of him reintegrating back into society is this whole counseling session, which he begrudgingly has to do. Goes to jail for, comes out, ultimately appreciates what the counselor did for him. We see Sam talking to Bucky about what making amends means. It's not just going through the motions, but like
Great
actually.
moment. Great
Mhm.
moment, by the way. What did Sam tell him? He said, "You weren't making amends, you were."
I
avenging or
Yeah,
revenging
you were
or
yeah,
something like
you were
that.
yeah, you weren't saying I'm sorry. You were basically taking out people that told
Yeah.
you to take out other people. It wasn't like a heartfelt thing. And then we see Sam walk away or excuse me, we see Bucky walk away, and then he comes back, and then at the end of the show, which I hated how they did this. This is one of the things that like really rubbed me the wrong way. It shows him going to the dad of the son that he killed in this, and it
Yeah.
was basically like, "Hey, I killed this," and then he walks away. Like there was no like sense of you know relief or we didn't even get to see how the man took it. He's like
Yeah.
from the last we saw, he was still upset. Bucky kind of walks away and sees him back at the bar where we meet, where he sees our favorite girl again. And that was the only time that we saw her, by the way. I hated how they did her
I'm a little disappointed that
because she was fantastic.
yeah, let me touch on that. The women in this show, once again, Marvel, it was awesome. If we want to talk about Walker's wife, if we want to talk about, Bucky's first date or whatever, awesome. We did not get
Sharon.
near enough of them. Julia Louise
Oh,
Dreyfus was
Elaine.
amazing. Elaine was freaking amazing. So
Hmm.
once again, they knocked it out of the park, but we definitely needed more. And I
There
totally
was
agree
no
with that.
closure
None.
with that man.
And I think that they thought that they gave it to us. And there's one where I'll just put it on the showrunners, directors, and all that. I think that they thought that we got that with Bucky, but I didn't feel it either.
Yeah.
I
And I
don't
feel
think
like if something similar like this happened in WandaVision, Jeff, you would be way more upset. I just want to throw that out there. If something
you're
similar
right.
happened in WandaVision,
Uh,
you would
you're
hold
right.
them way
You're
more
right.
accountable.
You're right. It did bug me, but I went into this show not liking Bucky, so I couldn't have came out of it liking Bucky less. But you're totally right. I gave him a pass on it, and the reason I gave him a pass on it, it's not totally fair. And WandaVision did a little bit of this. That came right off of Sam's speech at the end of the final episode, and that was so good that I'm riding this high, and I just kind of let him skate with the whole Bucky stuff, which is what Bucky has done through the whole MCU. He's just kind of
Bucky never got an opportunity to have one of those moments. You know
nope.
what I mean? Like
No, you're right.
he never got put in a position to like win. Like he won
That's a
me over.
great point.
I'll say in this series, like he won me over more. I was kind of indifferent. I like Bucky now. And the whole dynamic, I don't think that we have this in here, but the whole Bucky and Sam, friendship development, you like Bucky more because of how he
Yeah.
starts to trust Sam like how he trusted Steve Rogers.
You know what? You're right. I think they did a really, really good job with those two. In once it's, I give, and here's where we get into, I give all the credit to Anthony Mackie because he's
Outstanding.
amazing. But Sebastian Stan did everything that they asked him to do in this series, and I liked him for it. I liked Bucky better coming out of it.
I felt
And
like they could have given him at least one
yes,
moment. At
that
least
I
one
think that
moment.
was the moment too.
But it
I'm
was like
glad
15 seconds.
Yeah, it wasn't enough, and I don't know. They tried to
It was
okay,
like 3 lines when he
so
walks in the door. He's like
that wasn't
about
enough.
your son didn't pass away, he died.
He
And it
should
was
have
me. It wasn't my fault. And that
if
was the end of it. And he walks
if
away.
I'm yeah, if I'm directing that, another something I might have done is, and this is a classic, but I may have cut out that scene of him going to the guy's apartment. And then I have him on the street. He looks in and he sees our favorite girl, and he sees his buddy sitting there, and he has to take, he's watching them interact, like nothing's going on, which is another one of those things. And this is a huge flaw in any comic book story. Everybody acts like they didn't see the craziest thing that they've ever saw in their life. Like the
Mm-hmm.
next day they're like, that's cool. That's all you would be talking about. All you would be talking about is like, did you see all the super soldiers fighting and all this go down and Captain America anyway? So he could have looked in, he sees them talking, he takes a deep breath and he's like, I got to do this. He walks in, and even if you don't hear it, you see him through the glass, have the conversation. You see the guy's face, you see the girl react. and whatever, and give it some levity. You know
Some
what I mean?
closure, some
Give it some
finality.
weight. Give
Yeah.
it some weight. Even if it's a classic, the guy says, get out of here. I don't ever want to see you again. And then Bucky's like, I deserve that. They could have done
It's more
any of
endearing.
that. Yeah, I totally agree with you that the
Bucky never got a moment, man.
yeah, you're right. He still hasn't. And I don't understand, like, the closest thing was in Civil War when he's like, when him and Tony and Steve are fighting, and basically Bucky's like, I was never, but you never felt the weight of Bucky not being in control. Like, a little part of you's like, nah, he knew what he was doing, even though he didn't. I don't
Yeah.
think you ever, and I don't blame him. I think he was playing the part, but I totally agree that I don't feel any different about Bucky after that than
I
I
feel
did.
better about Bucky, but
I
I
like
wish
him. I like him
yeah.
just fine, but
I feel better about him after this show, but I feel like they could have I felt like this show in of itself could have drastically improved everyone's perception of Bucky.
yeah,
And I felt like they just kind of landed flat. Like they did a lot
agreed.
in this series and in only 6 episodes. And maybe I'm being a little bit too critical
No, I
because
don't
of the
think
number
so.
of episodes, but I felt like they could have taken this show as an opportunity to drastically improve how we feel about Winter Soldier, and I don't feel like they capitalized on that enough.
So I'll ask you this: Did they give Carly basically what Bucky should have got in maybe a couple of the shows? Like, they really spent a lot of time. I
It
mean,
felt
Carly,
like Killmonger. It felt like she was Killmonger in
yes,
Black Panther. You know what I mean? Like where you kind of like started sympathizing with
yeah,
the villain, which we never really get a whole heck of a lot of character development for villains in the MCU. And here we are in a TV show, and like you're
good
sympathizing for a
point.
villain. And again, like that's fine and
And
all.
and I think they tried that a little. There was a couple moments to where in the last episode, Bucky's like, Carly, you don't want to do this.
Hmm.
Trust me. Like, I
Yeah.
know. But then you're like, wait a minute, Bucky, you didn't know. So
They weren't
now,
even
like,
face to face. Like there was no like he
yeah,
didn't really share screen time in a significant moment. Like that was just a cutscene back and forth where they're on the phone.
that's a good
Like
point.
he could have had a standoff with somebody.
That's a great point. And then I'm like, well, wait a minute, Bucky, how do you know? Because in Civil War, you're telling me you literally had no control over your person, and then now you're saying, trust me, you don't want to do this.
Well, I think
Well,
he can understand like in hindsight, like okay, even though I didn't have control, I was a part of something that wasn't great, and it
it's not.
didn't end well for me.
But wouldn't you be the opposite? Wouldn't you really be like, if I would have had a chance, I would have never done the things you do? Like, I think he would have
I
been
think that's what
more.
he was trying to do, though.
I guess what I'm thinking is, if we're supposed to imagine that the last time Bucky was cognizant was fighting in World War II, I find it hard for me to believe that he would be like, "Oh, I get what you're doing here, Carly. Even though the last 80 years of my life, I had no control over all these horrible things I did. I totally get it, but you don't want to do it. I guess I'm with you. I think they kind of dropped the ball on what they could
Bucky's
have done with
development.
that.
Yeah.
With this development. And I think they can still go forward with it. I think they're probably right now deciding how popular he is and all these things. And
They
I,
tried. I mean, he was invited to the cookout. You know, that's like
which was,
every
hey, and me and you get invited to the cookout's pretty cool.
that's a badge
Pretty
of
cool.
honor when you're invited to the cookout. You know, so
So
like
let's.
they did the will he won't he with Sam's sister. So like
I think it was a will he.
yeah,
If I'm saying, which, you know what, you're right. That was pretty. That was a cool scene. That was a cool scene.
that
So
was
you know
his
what?
best moment of the show. You know
Yes,
what I mean? Like
I like the.
they
Okay,
developed his, I guess,
when did
person.
they fix up the boat? Was that 5 or 4?
That was 4 and 5. I
That was
want to say, right?
4. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
He had his moments, and once again, I attribute it to maybe that, Sebastian Stan just isn't up, to the task as to
He
where
felt
Anthony.
better as a human being than he did as a hero in the show, if
Word,
that makes sense.
word. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's fair. So let's just,
Which may be what they're going for. Maybe they don't want to focus on his super abilities anymore. Maybe they wanted to develop his personality. I don't know.
which is why we'll get into predictions later, but this is why I think Bucky's going to become more of an administrator role, like almost a, um, part of Shield, part of, I think that's where they could go with him, and he could pop in and out and things like that. I think they gave him an out. Let's put it that way.
Hmm.
Yes, I think Sam's sister was digging Bucky. So let's just, since we're
Fair
talking
enough.
about the cookout, let's just slide into it. What was the overwhelming to me? It wasn't the main storyline, but maybe it was Black Captain America.
It absolutely was.
To me, just as the comic fan and the way Mackie did it and the way they did it, the whole way, I thought the Black Captain America storyline just blew me away. And I couldn't get enough of it. I thought they did it. I thought, especially in today's times, I thought they took it head on. I don't think they took the easy way around it. I think they really, especially in, have to help me out here. I believe it was, I don't want to get this episode wrong because we all gave it 6 Infinity Stones.
2, when he's the confrontation in the street.
No, that was good, but him and
Isaiah
sat down and had
that
the
was the same
conversation.
episode.
Oh, was it?
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Just fantastic.
Or are you talking about when he goes back in episode?
That's it. When he went back to give him the shield.
Was that 4 or 5?
4. I'm trying to look right here. I don't want to mess this up because it was one of my favorite episodes of anything I've ever watched.
Mm-hmm.
I apologize, people. We're catching up on a lot of episodes right now. But anyway, I thought the whole storyline of that was great. I did not expect it. I really did not expect that out of a Disney Marvel series, and I was blown away by it.
Yeah, it was tremendous because I mean you're finding out, like you said, Jeff. Not a lot of people know about that Captain America universe where there are more super people. There's a lot of storylines behind each one of the characters that have been introduced. And Isaiah was just such a powerful presence in this whole show. You know what I mean? I felt like he was probably one of the more relatable people in here. I think that everyone knows a person like Isaiah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where they, they're wronged. They feel the way they feel. They have helped people, their whole life. They've done what's been asked of them and they've been taken advantage of. And, no fault of their own, because you can only base your perception off of your experience, right? He's just basically just done with it. You know what I mean? Like he just wants to do what he wants to do, be left alone. Don't bother him anymore,
Yeah. And I kind of agree with him. His whole premise was they will never let a black man be Captain America. And you can read the comics
and the one who wants to be what did he say about no black man would wear the stars and stripes, or he basically was not
or should they, or should they,
because you're basically calling you're ignoring your ancestry, you're ignoring like things that have happened to the people who have got you where you are today.
And I thought, I don't know if I think this is as good as a TV show or a movie has handled this, because I understand, there is a generational gap between this is a thing between, generations of African Americans and how things have changed. Not that they're perfect, but they've changed over the years. And this is a real conversation that happens. And the way that they took this on in a superhero TV show, but yet handled it in a way. And I think it took these two actors to handle this. I don't know if Anthony Mackie is not the guy that, I don't know if they can handle it like this, but he kind of, as Isaiah is telling him, like, you shouldn't even want the shield.
Mm-hmm.
But then, we've all had this conversation, and in Falcon, Sam is like, wait a minute, Steve said I was the guy and I trust Steve. And it was this inner turmoil, about all this. I mean, I know it goes as here's what I love about this storyline. It goes as deep as you want it to go. If you want to just, let this go in one ear and out the other and watch the rest of it as an action show and a Captain American show and a Marvel show, you can. Or if you want to really dig into the real stuff that they're talking about here and these real conversations goes on, you had that choice too. And I think these two actors, they were amazing, by the way, like together.
Dude, Isaiah he stole the show.
Isaiah was awesome.
And what I really appreciated is like, even though Sam took this role, and I would never pretend to understand the dynamic that goes on with, two African American men. One has a view that Isaiah does, one that Sam does. When Sam picks up the shield, it doesn't feel like he's turning his back on Isaiah or anyone else who feels. He doesn't turn his back on Isaiah or where he stands on. He picks up the shield, but he acknowledges that there's still room, there's still progress that needs to be made. Yes. And he's of the mindset that if a Black Captain America, scares society, I'm going to use that to push for progression. I'm not just going to take up the shield and smile in front of a camera and just be, an action figure for people. You know what I mean? Like he's gonna grab the problem, by the ropes and pull it along. He's not gonna be happy with where it is now. He wants to be the one to push the issue and be, one of the reasons behind progress. Because Isaiah even says it himself. He goes, "You're special. You're not Malcolm. You're not Martin or anything like that." But
that was cool.
That was cool.
And that was a throwback to the comics too, because all those guys came to visit Isaiah when he was in prison in the comic book. So I really like where we throw it back to comic books. That was a touch of that. I'm totally with you. I like what you said there. I'm not just an action figure. And he essentially, and it touched on the burden that, let's just be honest, that, Black men in America they have this extra burden. We've talked about a lot, whether it's, whether it's a quarterback or whatever, there's an extra burden that whether you want to, if you acknowledge it, you don't, if you acknowledge it, you do. Like, I don't know what to, tell you, but there's this extra burden that Sam has to deal with
and he says it too, that he says, when I put this suit on, he knows that millions of people are going to hate him because of it.
Exactly. And I give credit to Disney for making the show. They didn't have to go this route. And for people that want to say that this is because of, the year 2020, the show, you don't make this show in a month. So these are things that, they didn't make they didn't make each episode the day after, whatever, yesterday is what I mean. These are real things. And I was shocked. And there was a couple speeches and conversations, and I know a lot of people might think that it was hitting them over the head with it. I did not, as a person that
maybe some people do need to be hit over the head though. And I think that was the purpose of this show.
That is a good point, Stephen. I don't know. Yeah. And I don't apologize for that. I'm not we didn't need this. Yeah, no, it's fine. Like, we needed all this. I thought it was great. And this is what, growing up as a comic book reader and lover, these are the storylines that we got in comics that a lot of people didn't know were out there. We talked about it with WandaVision.
All the time. Yeah.
I mean, WandaVision, like, if you read the comics, a lot of that was about people just being against
interracial
Wanda and Vision being together. I mean, it was all undertones. And we talked about how important that was. So I love it that they took this head on, because there's no way that you can have Sam become Captain America and not have these storylines.
That's 100%.
I really appreciated that they, to me, it's a respect to me as a comic book reader, and it just as a person that they tackled this, because it's real. Like, we all know it's real. We've seen a Black president. We know it came out of it. We've seen, Black quarterbacks. I've seen the evolution of that. These are real things that happen, and that, that this is how it would be perceived. And I just
Like
thought,
vice presidents, even in the White House today,
yeah, yeah. I mean,
black women,
yeah, yeah. These are real conversations that happen,
and you're
and
seeing the difference too in even within African American society, just where you are. Sam being a Louisiana guy, and
yes,
then Isaiah being in Baltimore. Like you even see the different dimensions that brings into it as well. I thought that they did a great job. I mean, Sam, his speech at the end was just tremendous,
oh,
where he's like, you got to stop calling them terrorists, because if you're uprooting them and moving them from place to place, what do you think that they
what
call you?
he said, and this is why I remember watching. I don't know when the first movie was. Oh yeah, it was Civil War, or
Hmm.
no, I'm sorry, Winter Soldier. When Sam shows up, that was the classic. On your right, on your right.
On your
That's
left.
yeah, on your left. You're right.
Yep.
I apologize.
It's all right.
Uh, when they meet, and I'm like, I remember watching that, and I was an Anthony Mackie fan going into that, and thinking they nailed it. Like
Mhm.
as soon as I met him, they nailed it because as an actor, he was a guy that could go toe to toe with anybody in the Marvel universe. If he's not the best actor in the Marvel universe, like you got him, you got Scarlett Johansson, Robert Downey
Robert
Jr.,
Downey,
maybe.
Anthony
They
Hopkins. I mean, if you want to go off of like side people, Anthony Hopkins
Yeah,
is
but that
is
but
pretty
but that's
incredible.
fine. I'm fine to compare him with Anthony Hopkins. That's how good of an actor he was, and that's what it took because that last speech, Bucky can't give that speech.
No,
Like I don't believe it if Bucky gives that speech. When he gave that speech, it felt so real. I mean, I'm not overblown in saying that is something that is going to be turned into you know, videos and memes. That's going to last. And I understand it was in a TV show, but none of that felt like it was coming. None of it felt false. None of
it
it.
felt like we were like, okay, we're done talking about superhero stuff. Let's talk about what's happening in society right now.
Yes. And I think, I mean, just get full credit to the casting of Mackie and Mackie to deliver that. I thought it was wonderful because the episode, I'm like, oh, this is cool. This is neat. The stuff with Carly, which we'll get into her in a minute. But then they gave that speech, and I'm all 6 episodes could have led up to that. And I'm like, this is what we're here for.
Yeah.
This is what we're really talking about because he covered everything.
And I don't know how
And
you felt about after all of that, whenever he goes back to Isaiah and they're talking
oh
and he's with I'm assuming that's his grandson, and they're like, where are we going? And then they go to the Captain America Museum,
yeah,
and I'm trying not to get emotional about it right now, but like
no, that was something.
where Sam shows Isaiah his monument in the Captain
Yeah.
America, and the whole story's on there.
Well,
My
because
wife and I looked at each other. We were both like tearing up,
yeah, it was
and
amazing.
and when you saw the two embrace, I was like, oh my goodness, like
Because these stories are real because the comic stories, a lot of this stuff was derived from, and we won't get into it, but if you want to go back and look at what they call the Tuskegee experiments, this
mhm,
is where the Isaiah storyline from Captain America came from, and it's horrible. So
yeah,
if you want to go look that up, go ahead. But this is essentially what they're talking about. This was a way to filter it into mainstream, because that was the only way you could do it then. This is why comics were so important. And, kind of that whole thing with that, it just reminded me of it just so many things. It was so real that represented so much, and credit to the actors because they had a lot of burden. They had to bring a lot of emotion across, you know,
well,
in
you
in that
wonder how much
in
of
that
that
moment.
was their actual true feeling, like them
A
putting
lot.
themselves in a position to where they were saying, a lot of our history isn't told,
Yep,
as we
exactly.
lived it, and when you have, a Sam giving, an Isaiah a monument in the middle of a Steve Rogers monument, or museum,
Yep.
that's huge, and showing how important that his sacrifice was to our nation. I mean, it's hard. I know sometimes people will be like, how can you get caught up in stuff that's not real? Like, yes, like they're not real heroes. Like this Falcon Winter Soldier isn't based on actual events with those individual characters, but Stan Lee and Kirby and all those guys, like, you got to think too, like even when it wasn't popular, they were talking about difficult subjects
I
in
mean,
comic books,
no, it was
like,
huge. It was huge,
and
whether it was drug use or whether it was race relations or whether it was,
women's
um,
rights,
I mean, all of that stuff, they s I shouldn't say they snuck it in there, but they really did, and it would have never this is actually it's a whole story about they came up with the comic code at one point in time, and it's kind of a dark age of comics to where they censored a lot of this stuff
mhm,
and muted it, and it was terrible. And I kind of see this show as like, okay, finally, we're talking about
we can breathe,
yeah, it was just I thought it was amazing, and we keep passing over the actor's name. The actor that played Isaiah was Carl Lumbly,
Okay,
and
yeah,
like they can give that guy an Emmy for this because he conveyed that emotion
yeah, powerful
exactly.
performance.
Oh, no, it was awesome. You can't and I tell you, and here's something really cool that they did too. When they were in the garden at the very end and they're having a conversation, and first of all, Anthony Mackie's the best at, like, a chuckle. Like,
Mhm.
every time he kinda gives that, like yeah, he's perfect. Like, the
Mhm.
guy I've said this for 10 years. I don't know why he doesn't have 10 Oscars. I understand because you can only but it just I love the guy. But when Isaiah's talking and as he's talking, he picks up the tree
Mhm.
that's in the planter. But if you look at that thing weighs at least 400 pounds. So I thought that was a really cool, I thought it was just a neat touch that didn't need to be done or anything. But you're like, oh, that's right. This guy's you
He's
know,
jacked.
yeah, this guy is super powered, but he felt better. And then we know his grandson, eventually, if they want to, comes in, as a young
Young
Avenger.
Avenger. Mhm.
Uh, that was neat, but I just think that to stay like if people think that this got outside of comic books, it it actually
They
was
don't know
more
comic
it
books.
was actually more true to the comic books than anything that we've seen, in a long time. And I just that part of it alone, I I can't thank them enough for what they did and the conversations that come up. And if people don't like it, I don't care. That's the whole point of the show.
Yeah, like, they didn't make this show clearly to try to get as many
No,
people to get warm fuzzy about it, like,
no,
they took advantage, maybe take advantage is the wrong terminology, but they saw an opportunity, and they didn't let any of it go to waste, you know
yeah,
what I mean? Like,
yeah.
they saw an
That's
opportunity.
yeah, that's a good point.
They
So
saw an opportunity to have a difficult conversation, they didn't shy away from it, and the people that needed to be beat over the head, hopefully they were, and hopefully,
yeah,
it didn't cause them to draw more hate. I hope and I pray that people who saw this who maybe were, I don't want to say on the other side, but maybe not looking at it in a way that they probably should. Hopefully, it kind of woke them up a little bit.
yeah. And what what I care about is maybe uh, you know, a youngster, a good friend of mine, Dustin Kelly. Yeah,
What's up,
yeah,
Dustin?
great. Oh, great. That's a great showrunner right there. I owe a lot to Dustin Kelly. I'm glad he stopped by tonight. But and something I see too is that if a young person, watches the show and they're like, what are they talking about here? And they go back, and even if they open up a comic and just for entertainment purposes, I understand that everybody doesn't dig as deep as maybe we do, and that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah,
You take whatever layer of entertainment you want from it.
they're
But if
probably a
they
lot
go,
happier than we are.
yeah, but if they go search for these comics and they're like, I want to know what, Isaiah Bradley, what that's about, and they read the comics or they read US Agent or whatever,
More on
that's
him in a
cool.
minute.
Yeah, that's cool. So yeah, let's so anyway, basically the storyline I thought with Isaiah and Sam and all that, the
I could
you know
spend 2 hours just talking
mm,
about that dynamic of this show.
absolutely. I loved it. I loved
That's what
everything.
made the show
Yes.
what it is. It
Yeah,
was
that was the show
specifically
that I
those 2.
wanted. That's been the show because I've complained about that. And you can ask anybody could ask my wife that from the second that we met Falcon, or actually we met Sam, he wasn't even the Falcon yet. I was like, that's my Captain America. I need him as Captain America. Nothing
Mhm.
against Steve Rogers. I like Steve Rogers, but
Yeah,
I
Chris Evans
understood.
did fine.
Oh no, it was great. Yeah. And I thought, looking back, I thought that Chris Evans and Sam did a great job of working off of each other to
Of
create
course.
this moment. Steve had his flaws, Anthony had his flaws. I thought they did a really good job, but I think that my guess is to this day that they cast Anthony Mackie, and then as it went on, they were like, "Oh,
Whoa.
we can do it. We can do whatever we want with this actor. Like he can take us anywhere that we want to go."
And
And
talk about how empowering that must have been for Sam. I mean,
yeah,
we saw him ultimately give the shield up, and that's what sparked a lot of what happened
yeah,
in this show. Like, had he not given up the shield, who knows what goes on with the next
right.
guy that we're going to be discussing. But the fact that Steve chased so hard after, appreciate it, Dustin. Thank you so much. The fact that Steve went so hard after Bucky, and for him to still go with Sam as the Captain America
Yeah,
over Bucky, the guy that he was like, that he wanted to help and fix so hard.
yeah.
But like the fact that like he could take off his rose colored, lenses and say the better decision. And he had a whole nother lifetime to think about it when he went back in time,
That's a great point, Stephen.
he had a whole nother lifetime to think about it back in time. And he's like, you know what? Sam is the guy that
Yeah,
should be Captain
he
America.
had.
And he went back and
Wow.
relived, segregation and all that. He went through and relived
Oh,
our whole nation's entire history all over again.
you just blew my mind right there. You just blew my mind right there. That is a great point that I hadn't thought about. That Steve had 80 years, and when it was all said and done, was like, I know the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wow, it's really impressive. And I think that Sam lived up to that. He was just in. I don't know. I just think they did a great job of developing his character. I know it took a long time to get to where we were, but at this point, I'm not scared to say that Iron Man was close.
Oh, Iron Man he's got a special place. Like he's
Yeah,
the reason that the MCU is what it is.
right. But as far as flushing out a character, Sam might be the most well-developed character that we have. I mean, Wanda is right there too, but we caught Wanda in a small window. I
Towards the
mean,
end. And
yeah,
so
we saw
and same could be said for Sam too, so to speak. But I mean, that's why we have these continuation shows, is because the I guess the forefathers of the MCU, I guess, and four mothers of the MCU are kind of trickling out. And so we need to have these younger ready to take the lead roles being developed more, because we've had 10, 12 years of
yeah,
Robert Downey and Chris Evans and Hemsworth and
yeah.
ScarJo and
I think they can do whatever they want with Sam at this point. Like,
mhm.
we'll talk about like literally just the costumes and stuff later. That's a whole other thing. But so let's talk about U.S. Agent. Let's talk about Walker.
Mhm.
How did you like this storyline? Now this one still, like, you're a guy that's in the military. I'm sure that you were a little sensitive to this one too. They didn't really dig into it as much, but it was still like a guy trying to find his place in the a war hero trying to find his place in the civilian world, so to speak, and what's right, what's wrong, where do I belong, kind of thing. And Wyatt Russell played it perfectly. Like,
Yeah,
he was as unlikable as he was supposed to be. If anybody doesn't know, if you did not like the new Captain America, good, you
that
were
was
not.
on purpose.
He did a great job. I knew from second one, as much as I disliked him, this guy's perfect. We talked
I
about
hated
that.
his face at the end of episode one. I hated his face.
What a great job they've in. We even talked about it. We met his wife briefly,
Mhm.
but she barely talked. But what a great actress! Like, I loved her. I was so on her side this whole time, and she barely said a word. Like, what a great actress! And then, of course, he lost his partner through the show, which really they didn't follow. I mean,
So what I really enjoyed about that, and what kind of made me start sympathizing with Johnny Walker here, was that when the showdown at the last episode where he sees Carly
mhm,
and she's like, "I'm sorry about your friend," but in the end, he didn't matter. And again, not afraid to touch on anything. He goes, "You thought that his life didn't matter." Again, obviously that's like a nudge to the Black Lives Matter movement when they're talking about Lamar here. He's like, you, and like, obviously blonde hair, blue eyed white guy, right?
Yeah.
Fighting on behalf of, his fallen African American friend, and Lamar, hearing that his friend's life didn't matter. I felt like that was pretty enduring. And, at like you said, Jeff, towards the start of the series, you didn't like him. He was trying to take Steve Rogers' place, but then he had that moment where he was trying to get Sam and Bucky in the art, the Humvee, and he starts talking and starting to sound like Steve Rogers a little bit.
Yeah.
And then at the end, he's like, and I can't think of a better sidekick than Steve Rogers' old sidekick. And Sam's like, it's always that one line,
Yep.
and that's where you're like, oh man, he was so close to being this likable guy.
Yeah.
But again, that's intentional with the comic books. Like
Oh,
he's this tormented soul, right? Like, and a lot of it is self-inflicted. He lies about who he is, in order to get where he's going. His history isn't as prestigious as one would, assume based off of how he and other people talk about him. But, you have like this Lamar character who, by all accounts in this series, is just a good heart, is a good guy, and he wants to fight alongside Walker here. And so, okay, like if Lamar is buying in, in the way that his family loved Walker too, Lamar's family loved Walker when he came back and told them inaccurately what happened, but still, went and, gave his condolences to Lamar's family. It was like, wow, his family loved him. Lamar loved him. Lamar was
yeah.
willing to die next to him. So he can't be this bad of a guy.
Great
But
point.
but we see him roid out with the super soldier serum and hack a guy in half with the shield. And I thought that was kind of cool because if you remember what happens with Chris Evans as Steve Rogers in Civil War, he does the same thing to
Yep.
Iron Man. He takes the shield and he's trying to, Iron Man and him have had the heck of a fight.
Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr. is trying to kill his best friend, and he realizes what he's doing, and he hits him one more time without obviously killing him, but rendering his suit useless. Whereas we see this Johnny Walker guy
He
hacking
doesn't.
and hacking until
Yep.
there's nothing left to hack, and
Yep.
he's unapologetic about it.
Yeah. And Walker, we talk about Battlestar, we talk about Lamar, an actor named Clay Bennett. He did a great job. We talked about he did exactly what he was supposed to do, and the fact that he didn't come back, like that was, as we know right now, that was he just not
He's
just.
dead.
I shouldn't say it that way. He's dead, and that doesn't happen a lot in comic book shows and stuff. We all are like, yeah, everybody. It's famously nobody's ever dead in the comic except Uncle Ben and Gwen Stacy. That's the only two people that ever died in the comic, and for them to be like that was it. And so then, you start empathizing with, what Walker's going through and decisions he has to make, and they did a really good job of painting a gray area there of like, wait a minute, and I think that when this show began, people probably thought that Wyatt Russell. My guess is that their knee jerks were, this guy's only in here because he's Kurt Russell's son. We don't like him that much, but we talked about it immediately. Like, no, he is being exactly as annoying as you want him to be. But I thought that he did a great job of, by the end of it, evolving as a character. I think that Wyatt Russell may have done a better acting job than people realize.
Yeah.
And I think that we'll talk about it in predictions, but I think we'll get the next phase of this and people will realize how good of an actor Wyatt Russell is. I really think that that's going to happen, and that he did exactly what he was supposed to do. And I give him credit for that, because he could have played that role differently and we would have got a different character. But no, he went all in on being the most irritating, annoying, confused, person that we could get. And they didn't quote unquote beat us over the head with it like they did, with Cap, with Sam. But there was still a touch of, this guy is a guy that, obviously spent a lot of time at war, so to speak, and he's having a little trouble adjusting and even, I mean, about this way better than I do, but he's got a solid wife and family that's like, I know who you really are. But then he's like, even I think that the scene with him and Lamar discussed maybe for a few minutes, their time overseas. That
Mhm.
was what that was supposed to give us, is like a lot of times they can't turn that switch off. And I think that was the whole thing with Walker. To me, he couldn't turn the switch off. And I know a lot of guys like that. And so I think that was really important. And I think that's what they're going for. I mean, anybody knows US agent, that's kind of his conflicting thing right there. And then
And
of
what they
course,
did with him at the end with, Elaine Bennis, I can't ever pronounce her name, so I'm just gonna call her Elaine Bennis from Seinfeld. Um,
yeah,
what they
she
did
was
with
great in
her.
it, by the way.
Oh, dude, she
How
was
good
so
of an
good.
actress are you when as soon as you show up, I'm like, I looked over at my wife she was in like scene maybe episode 5, whatever her
Oh,
first
yeah.
episode was. She says she's in there for a minute, and I look over and I'm like, she just stole that entire show in two
Yeah,
minutes. Like, how good of an actress are you? And she looks great, by the way. Like, I
she
don't
did
like
a
to
great
comment on
job.
women's looks, but man, she looks fantastic.
Yeah, especially considering, like, she's no, she's not, Zendaya right now, who's
No, no,
getting a
no.
lot of buzz.
She's a veteran.
Yeah, she's a
She's a
vet, but,
veteran. I don't think, like, I'm not objectifying her. I'm just, her name
no.
is Valentina Allegra de Fontaine,
Yes, or
and
Val.
she looks wonderful.
Yeah, and so what was crazy, about her interaction with what we see with Walker is the fact that she's obviously up to something, and she
Yeah,
knows how to play into what Walker's deepest desires are, and that's to make a difference. It doesn't matter how, when, and where. He wants that pat on the back, and he does seek a lot of, approval from other people on what he's doing.
great
And
point.
at the end, when she's like, we need a US agent, he's happy that he's being put in a position to make a difference. But you and I, Jeff, we know, like, it's not going to be what he's expecting it to be.
So what I do know is, first of all, Black Widow was supposed to come out before this series. She's
Hmm.
in Black Widow, so
Okay.
we're supposed to know a little more about her than we do now. And from what I
Which I
hear,
think that that's kind of a cool twist that
oh
we're
no,
not
no, I
getting in
like
the
it.
way of
I
it. Yeah.
No, I went into this and I was like, I'm not doing the research. I'm not looking into anybody. And I'm glad I did. It was complete opposite of WandaVision, to where me and you dove in head first,
Hmm.
to the history of it. This one I purposely stayed back from. So we were supposed to know her by now. And then it sounds like, essentially she's kind of the new Madam Hydra.
Yeah, I was going to say Lady or Madam Hydra. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go, Lady Hydra. Yeah, and it sounds like she creates is it the Dark Avengers? I think
Hmm.
it's the Dark Avengers. Yeah, so it sounds like, which I'm all for, which is why I say that this is like, I'm so glad that Wyatt Russell played it like he did, like properly, because
Hmm.
it's going to pay off in the long run. Um, and I mean, she's amazing for it. I like the direction they're taking, and it, even the suit was perfect at the end. I like the little moment. She's like, "What's taking so long?" And
Yeah.
his wife's like, "It's probably the helmet. It's probably the helmet." Like,
Yeah.
I thought that was really neat.
It
I
was a
totally
nice
enjoyed it.
dialogue. They did a great job with those just couple moments that they had with
Yeah,
her.
and he had his redemption story, to where he realized, he's struggling with the serum, and he's struggling with, let's just call it what it is. It's probably, I think they're alluding to PTSD, even though they really
Yeah.
didn't go too much into that. Some of the grief from losing his partner.
Lamar.
I think losing Lamar was a big deal. And
Hmm.
so, he had a little redemption at the end, but they didn't go all the way. Like,
Yeah.
even though him and Bucky kind of paired up, at the end, he's still naive. Like you said, he wants that,
Affirmation.
affirmation. And I think that was a cool storyline to do, to where these
He's the
conflicting
kind of still the
conflicting
hero at
characters.
the end of this show, right? Like, he's
Yeah,
still kind of the hero. He helped take out the Flag Smashers.
absolutely, absolutely. Which was, I don't know, I thought it was really neat, the way they flushed it out like that. And they told a big big Captain America story in 6 episodes, which was really cool. And I know there's a lot of people that I honestly, there was a lot of people that were like, I did not know there was more than one Captain America,
Yeah.
and they flushed out 4 of them in 6 episodes. I just thought it was great. So, we've talked a lot about them. We'll move on here and just kind of talk about the characters themselves and what we thought of them. I think we've talked a lot about how we felt about Falcon slash Sam slash
Buggy, Walker. Yeah.
Captain America. We love them. Let's talk about Carly. Let's
Okay.
jump ahead to Carly here, so we don't want to be too redundant.
Sure.
So I guess the conversation of how we felt about her character and how we felt about the actor, because I think that
Actress, if we're being.
well, yeah, I never know if they want to be called actor or actress now, and that's up to them.
Sure.
So the actress, I still am not sure where I'm at with this character. I don't know if I didn't like the character, if I didn't love the actress. There was episodes to where I'm like, okay, this is cool, I'm on board, and then there was episodes to where she kind of lost me. I could never get past the fact as a character that she murdered a lot of innocent people, but then kept it's for the greater cause. I'm never a fan of that, and I know that's part of the storyline, but I don't think there was enough. I thought at the end, even Sam was a little too compassionate. And I'm not saying I believe in that she should have, like, they should have just murdered her.
Snuff her
But I'm
out.
saying they still could have been like, "Oh, Carly, we can't just like you can't do it this way. Like you've crossed too many lines." And Sam did talk about that, and I like how there was times where she's like, "You of all people have to understand." And Sam's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa. This is not how, I do it at all." So
Yeah.
I guess just what are your overall thoughts on Carly?
So I liked her. I didn't love how she was introduced as bait in that one episode where we got the amazing Diesel fight. I
Don't
thought
like
that
it.
I didn't
Yeah.
like that at all. But
Yeah.
she started, winning me over a little bit. And like I kept saying, there's kind of like that X-Men feel where, like they're being hunted down by society. They're never really going to be accepted. They're trying to do what they believe is the right thing. The whole one people, one world thing.
Which I like that. Just,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like it as far as I'm a little like that as far as a person, but I just kind of, as far as writing and storyline, I did like that the group that they made.
There was a red and blue X on their gate. I just want to point that out.
I did see it. You nailed it. You brought it up in our first episodes, and you were right on.
Is very X-Men feely, but ultimately she does what we see in almost every other action movie like this, where it's like, I'm trying to make a difference, and then you become the ones that you hate and you struggle, and you're just like, screw it, and the movement's bigger than me. It doesn't matter if I die anymore. So she basically graduates from being a vigilante to, an extremist. And
yes,
I think that, I don't know, maybe that's easy to do. I've never, obviously never been put in that position. Maybe that's kind of easier to do.
I don't know how that goes.
I don't know how that works.
I'm closer than ever, but
she's a kid, trying to lead a movement that's recognized globally right now, and there's a lot of support behind her. So obviously there's probably a lot of pressure to deliver for those who are being taken advantage of, and maybe even wrongfully being viewed, discussed, legislated against, all of those things. There's probably a lot to it that maybe even still I don't understand, but I liked her character. There was a lot of times where she felt real believable. I like how cunning she was. She always was smarter than she let on to be in certain situations, especially at the end. And the whole interaction with, we're going to talk about Sharon here soon. I love the dynamic with her and Sharon. That was incredible. I really enjoyed her. I'll be honest with you, Jeff. I enjoyed her. I mean, as far as being the major antagonist in the show for 6 episodes, to really just be flawless, I think that's hard to do, especially when, again, Marvel is doing something that we've never seen before. with how they're doing these shows now. Something that we've never seen before. I always try to look at that objectively whenever I'm dissecting something that's, paving new ground.
Yes.
Um, I felt like she did a good job. I liked her as an actress. She felt believable to me. I felt the desperation in her as the show started, dwindling down. I thought she did a fine job, but she also at the same time wasn't like the reason I was watching the show.
Yeah, yeah, I'm similar. I probably half the episodes I'm like, okay, okay, I really like her. Well, she's not a failure by any means,
Sure.
and
Or a
MCU's
bust
had
if we're talking, sports language here. She's not a bust.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, exactly. That's a good. Yeah, she's not a Jameis Winston. Shout out to Stuart, but yeah, I agree. There was a couple episodes where I'm like, man, I'm really starting to latch on to her, and I don't totally blame her. The last episode I thought some of her, like literally some of her fighting scenes were really cool
Mhm.
and her aggression. But then I thought they went a little cliche with some of it, like you touched on.
Yeah.
The the dying in the arms kind of thing. The like I just this is one of those, as cunning as she was, she would not have fell for a lot of, like, she made it this far and then she just got suckered by Sharon. Like, that's probably a writing thing.
Didn't we
That's
all
probably,
though? Like, didn't we all get suckered by Sharon?
yes, I did. I did. I'm hook, line, and sinker. Hook, line, and sinker with Sharon. I would put Sharon up there with Agatha from WandaVision as far as I was
No,
in. I
you
would
might
no,
be.
I was in. I was,
Nah,
hey, you know me. I was a
Agatha.
spy guy.
There's levels to this.
I
To
like a
this.
butt kicking spy, no nonsense gal. I'm not. I won't. I would not lie to anybody. Um, I loved it. So anyway, but yeah, it was pretty good. I thought I thought they missed the mark a couple times. I thought she had some really good dialogue, and
Yeah.
I think that part of it was, you know, a lot of times she was acting up against people who just she couldn't match. So it was tough for her. If you notice, her and Bucky had a little better conversations than her and Sam, because she was just that's just a tough one to match that intensity. But I thought it was good. I thought the maybe it was 3 or 4 when her and Sam were speaking in the church, and
Mhm.
he was basically trying to talk her into coming in. That was when everything kind of broke down. Thought that was great. I thought that was great. Overall, I thought she was a pretty cool character.
I loved her voice, by the way. She has a really I
Oh
loved her
yeah,
voice.
yeah, yeah. As a person, she's got a big future ahead of her. She was all in. She was all in.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? She did, just like I said with Lamar. I kind of put her in Lamar's category. If she did exactly what she was told to do, um,
I felt
I
like she
thought,
was better than Lamar. I thought that so if we're
oh
doing
really?
tiers, if we're doing tiers of the characters in the show, I mean obviously, Mackie's at the top.
Yeah.
Then in the second tier, you got, I think she's there with Bucky. I like her and Bucky like in
Oh,
that same.
I have her above Bucky.
I have her and Bucky in the same tier, second tier.
I think
Um
Isaiah's
oh,
second.
okay, excuse me. So tier 1 is Anthony Mackie and Isaiah. That they're
Okay,
tier
okay.
1.
They're
Okay,
both on tier
excuse me.
one. Okay.
Yep, and then tier 2, you've got Bucky, you've got the counselor, you've got our girl from the restaurant, you've
Oh
got
yeah,
Elaine Bennis, you've got the sister, you've got all of them
they
in
were
this. And
amazing.
the whole cast is good. I mean, my whole tier 2 might be everyone. Johnny Walker, they're.
I don't know if they're
Oh,
I don't know if
and
anybody
we're
did
gonna
a.
talk about Zemo. Zemo might be up in tier 1 too. There might be like that tier 1.5 with Zemo.
Oh, okay. Oh, you know what? Let's just move on to it. Let's talk about, next was going to be Sharon. Let's talk about Zemo. We haven't even touched on Zemo. I know he was in and out. I like Zemo. He redeemed himself from Civil War, which I couldn't. Anyway, I couldn't stand. I thought
Yeah,
he
they
played
they did him so dirty in that
so
movie.
bad. I thought that they gave him the purple mask in this show. They let him go a little bit. His
They
storyline go.
referred to him as a baron, which was
Yeah,
awesome.
that was super cool.
Yeah.
And he kind of had the fur neckline and stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah, I thought Zemo was super 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 good. I
Kind of
like him a lot.
quietly, like if you like thinking back on him, I feel like I like him better thinking back on it
Good,
because
good point.
there were
It,
so many good parts of the show, but he
yeah.
was steady. He was steady. Like he
Yep.
maintained great performance the entire way through.
Well, you know why? My guess is he played it like a guy that knows he's not done.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I, he already knows what he's going to do in the Marvel future because he did not play this like this is the last time I'm in a Marvel thing. He played it as if, oh no, I'm going to be here for a while. Like,
Yeah,
he's settled in.
when we see at the end when the car blows up because his butler, I'm just gonna
Oh, that
call him
was so
Alfred. I
cool.
forgot his name, but I'm just gonna call him Alfred
Everybody
because
calls him.
every
Yeah,
butler is Alfred. So when Alfred blows up the bad guys at the end, and when you hear him listening to it on the radio in the middle of the ocean, I don't know how you get signal
on
out
the
there.
raft. They can,
But
yeah. First of all, let's just throw that out there. How cool was it just to see the raft in real?
yeah,
Like that was really neat. If someone, I mean, anybody that doesn't read the comics, the raft is historic, super villain prison. They actually showed it. I thought that really made me feel good
and he
when I saw
kicks
the
up his
raft.
feet and he's
Oh,
relaxed
that's
in the
great.
jail. He's like, "All right, I'll see y'all here in a little bit. Y'all are gonna
Yeah.
need me again."
Yeah. Which is so crazy because the raft is in the beginning of, I think it was
It was in Civil War.
the
Civil War.
second, was it the second Civil War or the original Civil War? Might have been the
Oh,
original Civil
are we
War.
talking comic books or the
Comic
MCU?
books.
Oh,
Comic books. I was thinking it was the second. I can't remember, but
I'll
it
have to
kind of
look back.
it looked just like that. Anyway, that really did my heart good. I thought Zemo did a great job.
Zemo
Uh,
was great the whole way through.
oh yeah, he was awesome, and really enjoyed it. And once again, I liked it that they recaptured him.
Hmm.
They took him back, and he didn't come back. Like they didn't just keep dragging people back in the show. Lamar was gone. Zemo
Hmm.
was gone. These people were gone, and I thought that was really a good touch. Uh, yeah, I thought he did a great job. I thought he was important to the show.
Yeah.
He brought a lot into it, and he brought so many Captain America feels.
I called the as soon as he sees Bucky, he's gonna try to reread the list like instantly.
Yes,
And I
yeah,
saw
that
that. I
was
was like,
neat. That was
yes.
neat.
Yeah.
Um, and he importantly he brought in the question of how ethical is a super soldier, which
Hmm.
was that was his whole purpose in this show is how ethical is a super soldier and
Which is
what would
why
you
which is why Carly's friends looked like they were gonna escape, but like Zemo's like, nah, like I'm still meddling
yeah,
back here.
yeah. I think actually if that was filmed different and done different, that could have been a really powerful. I honestly think they just dropped the ball with that. I think maybe they rushed that scene. This is a technical thing. I think they kind of rushed that scene because I think that could have had some impact, but it was so quick after all that action. I actually, if anything, I think the final episode was a little rushed,
Of
like
course. I
by
felt
the
that same way.
by the director. That if they slow play that out and get we never had a chance to breathe. That guy says, you know, the one world, what
One
is it?
people.
One people,
Yeah.
one world. And then
Mhm.
next thing you know, it blows up. They never gave us any time to breathe in between. I don't know if they were on a time crunch or what, but I thought
It did feel very rushed
it
at that
felt very
moment.
rushed. I thought they kind of dropped the ball on that. But overall, Zemo, and that, which is crazy because he is a wacky character from the comics, and
Yes, he's a little over the top. Yes.
how you could possibly make that guy into live action, but they've done it.
They did
Uh,
a really great job. And the
oh yeah,
fact that again when like they meet Alfred the butler with the plane and he's like, "You got a private jet?" He's like, "Dude, I'm a baron."
I'm a
You
Baron.
know?
It was great. I mean, I thought it was really cool, and they've set up so many things for the future. Credit to Daniel Bruhl for bringing
He
that guy
was
to life.
phenomenal. Yeah.
He wonderful.
Way better in the show than he was in the movie.
Oh
They
yeah,
just did him
I'll
so wrong
never
and
forgive him. I'll never forgive them from what they did. They were on the right track, and I'm sure that that's part of it. As they look back at that and they're like, "Oh, look what we could have done in this movie, but we chose not to." So now we've got a retake, if you will. So yeah, credit to him. Um, so let's talk about. I never change that. I always do this. Talk a little bit about Sharon. Last major character we'll talk about, or we
Mhm.
can just sit there and talk about how much I loved Sharon Carter in this. I
Well,
like her
you mean Power Broker?
maybe. maybe, because she never said she was a power broker. We all know that she's not going to be all bad. They just don't do that. Like
I
she's a Nick Fury type, if you ask me.
I don't
Because
think
she
so.
really, but because she really did help defeat, the people that supposedly she was trying to help. She could have just not helped Cap and Bucky at all, and it would have made things easier on her.
But at the same time, she was looking to be pardoned. You know what I mean? So like, I feel like that plays into it
Good
too.
point. Good
Um,
point.
yeah, I think that she was tired of being, in bad guyville where she was, and being shot at every day and stuff like that. And we saw
That
at
guy
the
Bill
end
sounds awesome.
when she was at the end where she's officially pardoned and they're reinstating her at her exact position that she was. We see her on the phone. She's like, call the bidders.
Good point.
Now we have access to everything.
Good
I'm just
point.
like, she's a baddie,
I
which I did
actually
appreciate the turn. I did appreciate the turn.
Yeah, I actually kind of overlooked that. I got caught up in everything else that we've talked about, and now that you mention it, I did overlook her agenda.
Mhm.
Now that you mention it, yeah, I just loved her in the show. I thought she
She was
was
fantastic.
I thought she was kick ass when she had to be. I thought the chemistry between her and Sam, she was one of
Mhm.
the only one that really matched his chemistry. I thought that was great. Even at the end, she's like, nice suit. Like a
Yeah.
little more than just a nice suit, which was super cool. But then I was kind of weird because I'm like, you already made out with Steve. Like, what's going on right now? I don't understand. Do you just have a thing for Captain America's? I'm so confused. How can Agent Carter's niece be doing this? What is happening? Like she was so confused, and I thought it was. I didn't expect her to be in this series, and I
Maybe
thought
it's
it
that
was awesome.
whole expectation to live up to one of the greatest Shield agents in Shield history.
Yeah,
Like
I. That's why I say I feel she's a Nick Fury type. I really do. Like, oh, she's definitely a bad guy, but maybe she's not a bad guy. There's a
I
lot
think
of gray area in Marvel right now. Like, there's a lot of gray area in Marvel right now.
that's true. I feel like she's gonna be, I feel like she's gonna be bad. I think she's gonna be made.
It could be. It could be. I don't know. I thought she did a great job.
I love the thought
Uh,
of her being the power broker though, out of
oh, me
that
too.
whole time, because like you didn't expect that. At least I didn't. She fooled me. She pulled wool over my eyes.
Yeah, no. I thought she did a great job. I thought she, just looked cool. I really think she helped the show. She wasn't. She was necessary. If that makes any sense. They made her more important than she ever was in the movies. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that turning her bad was something that was kind of necessary because she she just kind of felt pretty vanilla, you know what I mean, from when we last
Yes.
saw her. And now that she's in the show, they needed to do something with her kind of different. They made her a little bit more gritty, being in Bad Guyville. You
I
know,
love Bad Guyville. By the way, we need to coin that. I kind of want to go to Bad Guyville.
I mean, she's in Bad Guyville. She's not like this dainty, innocent little niece of Peggy Carter. You know what I mean? Like she's she's learned. She knows the streets. She knows the systems. She knows how things work, and she just kind of did what she had to, did what she had to do. And I kind of like the rugged Sharon that we have now.
I was a big fan. I was a big fan. I thought it helped the show. I thought it helped move the show along. I thought she was great. Yeah, just everything about it. Everything about it. I thought they just did a great job in general with the characters. As far as this was only 6 episodes, and think about how much we've talked about each individual character. Even Isaiah, who was only in 3 episodes. Um, yeah, yeah, I can't say enough. Like they really there's a lot of detail in there. I can't wait to rewatch the series, and I think I'll be able to relax and take some of it in, and it'll be great. So another thing I want to talk about is just the costumes, because Captain America is so iconic. in the history or whatever. And I thought, what did you, I put the costumes, but essentially, what did you just think of the look of the show? We started off with Sam and his, the Falcon, costume. We had the bad guys. We had Zemo. What they did with
Mm-hmm.
Zemo as far as pushing the envelope. Just I thought they were great. I can't, obviously the final Captain America costume was perfect. It looks right out of the comics. I thought that was really cool. We never got to see Isaiah in his, which is something we hope for. I know we both hope for. I get it. That's fine. But I thought in general the show looked looked really good. What'd you think?
Yeah, the cinematography was great. Even the counseling session with the tree wallpaper in the background, I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
They even kind of show that again at the end where the counselor is getting her thank you note from Bucky.
That was a neat. I like that. I felt,
Yeah,
you know what? There's a moment of closure I really liked
but
with him.
Bucky didn't do or say anything. It was just a letter from Bucky.
That was cool though. That was
Yeah, it
cool.
was cool. Bad Guyville looked dope. It looked like Tokyo or something. You got the fight scene at the beginning through the canyons and stuff like that. That was incredible. You have your your warehouse, your empty warehouses. The diesel fight was incredible. What else do we have? The obviously military settings that were there were awesome. The Good Morning America intro was phenomenal. I thought
Was
that was
really good. That was
that was really
really
good.
good.
Um, and then ultimately the end, I felt like, you felt like you were in New Orleans. You felt like you were in Baltimore when we were in those places.
Oh, good
You,
point. Yeah.
they did a great job with that. I love the costumes. I love the little teaser at the end of episode 5 where, I was like, what's in the box? Like I was really
Oh,
curious.
that was great.
I don't know why, but like the first thing I thought of is like they're not about to make Sam Black Panther here, are they? Like for a brief moment, I was like, they're not about to
I
do that,
gulped.
right?
Even though I knew 100%
Hmm.
knew they wouldn't, I still gulped.
I still had that
Which,
moment where I'm like, he's not about to be Black Panther, is he?
but
Like,
I mean, by default, they sort of have. Let's be honest. Like with the passing of Chadwick,
hmm
that was a little bigger moment because that moment is emphasized by the fact that we know that as of right now, there's not a Black Panther.
right.
So I think that even though they may not have intended it, obviously, sadly,
I
that
don't
is
know
a
how you saw that and didn't at least for a brief second
exactly.
have that feeling where it
Yeah.
was
And,
like,
and so that was a little that moment took on a little more weight than I think that they intended it to because of those reasons. And some of it was good. I thought, as a Pulp Fiction fan, I loved it. Honestly, when he opens it up, I'm like, yeah, I'm in. I'm in.
yeah, absolutely. And when he opens that up, knowing that it came from Wakanda, I was like, man, he might be Black Panther soon. But the
But
fact that,
he sorta is because he's immortal, not immortal. He's immortal. And without that costume, like he can't fight the super soldiers. He can't be Captain America. So that suit does help him. So there is something to the fact that,
yeah,
he's
I
got a
mean,
super suit. They didn't really touch on
it's
that, but I mean,
vibranium. Yeah,
it's got to be, or he would get his butt kicked.
yeah, and we see him like endure that helicopter crash when he surrounds himself with the wings
Yeah.
made of
Pretty
vibranium, and
cool. Pretty
it was
cool.
pretty dope. So I don't know, and I thought it was cool of Bucky to be like, hey, can my friends from Wakanda make my buddy a Captain America suit?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was cool. Overall, though, the costumes were great. Um,
I thought what
I
they
just
did
loved it. They
I
they
thought what
nailed
they
the
did with a lot of
cinematography.
it was yeah, I thought what they did with a lot of it was great. How they used Sam's wings in the fight scenes and how they used, what we call red wings, to do this and that. How he used the shield and the wings and the flying from the beginning to end. I thought it all looked great. I thought the choreography was really, really good. I thought they did a great job of implementing everybody's superpowers, so to speak, and gifts all at the same time. Even Walker's, like I say, even Walker wound up being sort of a hero at the end. I thought they did a great job, and that's not easy to do with all the CGI and all the different characters. And you know, you've got the bus falling off the bridge, which is a classic thing. You know, how do we do it different? And just a way to
Without a
show.
Spider-Man web.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, I was really impressed with of a lifelong comic book fan. I thought they did a great job. I thought everything looked great. I thought the color schemes looked great. I thought even just the tint on the show, the way they used dark and light, and when they were in Louisiana partying, and at the barbecue, the it really looked light and blue and uplifting, and then the dark moments were dark. And I was impressed with the overall feel of the show. And I felt
Mhm.
like when they were in different locations, it felt different, and that was pretty cool, because that's not the easiest thing to do, especially in the last couple of years. Filming wasn't the easiest thing to do. So yeah, I give it an A+. So what was your favorite episode?
I don't wanna cop out, but I'm gonna cop out and say the last episode was just the best. I I
Really?
I thought that last episode, there were parts where I hated, but the speech at the end was tremendous. The send-off that we got with Sam and Isaiah, that was when they interacted the most, and you give me more Isaiah, and it's gonna definitely increase, my overall feelings of it. We got to see, a little bit of build up to what's going to happen next, which I really appreciated with Sharon,
Yeah,
with Madam Hydra, with Johnny Walker officially being named in that episode U.S. agent.
which was
That
cool.
was huge.
Really
Yeah.
cool.
The Flag Smashers, we were told that, like, even if they die, like, there's enough people for that movement to continue. So maybe they're not even done, even though it kind of feels like it. Zemo is chilling in prison. Maybe he's going to be a part of these, Dark Avengers coming up soon with, you know,
Yeah.
he's a very likely candidate.
Or
Um,
or him and your boy, Nathan Os or Nathan, or Nathan,
yeah, Doctor Norman
Norman
Osborn.
Osborn.
Yeah,
I mean, that could be coming.
they got to be coming, man. I mean, because
I think it's happening. It's
Dark
happening.
Avengers. I mean,
It's happening.
eventually Norman Osborn has to come into the MCU. Eventually,
I think when we saw Zemo do that, he was really just cashing that check. He's like,
hmm
"Yeah, yeah, we're good. We're good for the next 8 years of my life. We're all in."
yep. So, the last episode, I thought it was great. I love the developing relationship that Sam and Bucky had. It really felt like at the end that Sam was like, "This is the next guy that I'm gonna, fight beside with, even to the death if it means it." So, overall, episode 6 was my favorite just because of how powerful of an episode it really was.
Yeah, I love 6. 5 is my favorite because so much happened in 5. That's when, Sam and Bucky, Sam realized he needed to take the shield. They actually took the shield. And I'm a sucker for a montage, a training montage. So you give me
That
a
was
training
pretty
montage.
incredible.
And I'm also a sucker for everybody get together and do this thing to make something better. Kind of like, if anybody remembers, Breaking, the Breaking movies, where let's fix up the center to help all the kids, kind of thing. So everybody gets together. They play some great music, interaction. Bucky and Sam's sister kind of kicking it off, and then the toss with the shield. All those things just were really great. And then at the end of it, opening up the case like we just talked about. I think 5 was my favorite, but once again, that doesn't mean I didn't like 6. I think 5 was one of my favorite. I text you and Cruz right away, man. That was 6
Hmm.
Infinity Stones. I was in. That's what comic book shows ought to be, and it forever, cemented that series. No matter what happened last week, I didn't even really care, and it was
Yeah.
still great. But I did not even really care. I was so happy about it. So let's just do it then. Let's jump right to it. Let's just rate the whole series.
Okay.
How many, like, we always do Infinity Stones. Everybody that knows us, we do Infinity Stones. We're still sticking to 6 Infinity Stones. There's no half stones because we don't want to upset the balance of the multiverse. I will give this series, especially now talking about it with you. When I came into this, I'm like, it was good. And then now that we've talked it out and really dug into it, which is why I love doing this show with you, um, I've raised it up to 5. I give this series 5 Infinity Stones. The only reason I don't give it 6 is because I know that would be, out of emotion. It did have flaws and it had stale points, but as a whole, I'm giving it 5 Infinity Stones, and I loved it. I'll rewatch it. I can't wait for the future of all these characters. It was exciting, and it was fun, and I looked forward to it every Friday night. What about you, Stephen?
I think talking with you kind of helped make me bump it up a little bit too. I think initially when I got, the outline for the show, I was about ready to give it just a 3 because, and again, like if you've never saw the MCU, I felt like you would have just thought that this was just like its own, like,
Agreed.
you know what I mean? Like it didn't feel like I was getting a real push with the MCU, but I think the fact that it touched on such important issues is what really bumps it up for me. There was a lot of power, a lot of emotion, and that's what you want in like a movie or TV show or anything. You want to feel, right? Which I think that this show did a great job of. Now, what keeps it from going up any higher for me? We talked a lot about all the reasons why was, the whole Bucky thing. There's really never a moment. And that really did it for me because you're talking about like his name is in the title, of the
No,
show.
I agree with that. And that bugs me. You brought it up right from the beginning, and it really, and I kept waiting for it, and I liked him more. But
Yes.
once again, I've said this from the moment we met him in Winter Soldier until now. I keep saying we don't care as much about him as Marvel thinks we do. And
So
I stand by. I care about him more, but I never latched on to him like they wanted me to.
I just thought of this as we were discussing it. I feel like they could do to him what they did with Rhodey. Like they could switch actors and you would feel like the same towards them. You know what I mean?
I don't want to say you're right, but I think you're right. No
I
offense,
feel,
Sebastian. No offense, Sebastian.
and it's not because of him. It's the way that they're done as character. You know
Yes,
what I
it's what
mean?
they're
Like,
asking him to do.
yeah, like so he's never given these opportunities to be like his name is in the freaking title. And you don't feel like it
Agreed.
is. It feels like this is Falcon and Carly or Falcon and Zemo or Falcon and Sharon or Falcon and Isaiah. Like that would have been the best title,
He
as Falcon.
never I
They
never
never utilized him in the best way in this show. And
yeah,
I feel
like
like they could bring in just insert random other white actor and you would get the same you would get like the same like
no, you're right.
and depending on who the actor is, you might like the replacement. Like if Keanu Reeves comes in and is the Winter Soldier, like how impressive would
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves as
Well,
Winter Soldier be?
here's where they messed up. And I don't love Jeremy Renner, but that's who I think they thought, the Winter Soldier was.
At
And
least Renner's funny, like
that's what I mean. Though I
as
think
Hawkeye.
here was the problem with the Winter Soldier. When it got to the end of this, we should have really, really worried that he was going to die. This whole show was set up for somebody was going to die at the end. It wound up being Carly, but we didn't know. It could have been the Winter Soldier, but we really didn't worry about that as much as we should have. As to where if Sam, like someone happened to Sam at the end, it would have devastated us. Even Carly, it was upsetting. Even Sharon, I was a little nervous. The Winter Soldier, I'd have been like, that's how it goes. If Isaiah, for instance, something would have happened to him, it would have destroyed me.
I would have been devastated. Yeah.
I never. So I totally agree. I'm just. I don't know what to say. Like I feel like it's been 10 years of me bashing the Winter Soldier. I feel so bad for it, but I never.
It's no fault of the actor to me.
I
Like
think it might be.
they put him in these situations to where again, like you're in the
Are we
title.
Are we going to give him Aaron Rodgers pass? The Aaron Rodgers
because
pass?
Aaron Rodgers has more to do. Like this is like to me, this is like Stu giving Baker Mayfield a pass. This is like Stu giving Baker Mayfield a pass because he like for real. Look at look at Sebastian Stan here. He has two powerful running backs that he can hand the ball off to, in Anthony Mackie and Isaiah. He's got two really strong running backs that he could hand the ball off to. And then on the other side of the ball, he's got Zemo, Sharon. Like, there's so many people on the other side of the ball that are making him look better. And I feel like he's out here bumping his chest with his iron hand. You know, like he's doing it all. Like, no, dude, like this can go on without you.
Okay, so I just want everybody to know I turned my mic down because Steven said that on the fly, and I didn't want to ruin it because I am going to cut that as a clip, and it's going to make me famous because that was one of the funniest, awesomest things I've ever heard. That finally summed up the Winter Soldier for me. Oh my gosh! No, you're so right. You're exactly right. You're exactly right. And oh, that was awesome. Yeah, but I totally I agree. I agree. But I've just,
and this is why I want to bump it down even more. Like, it's a 4 for me because I loved Anthony
you got to
Mackie's
hang on, man. You got to hang on, man. But you just said it though. You just said it. Like you can't drag him back for that. You just named so many good reasons that this is, I think it's worth a 4.
But it's a tight, like, it would be different if it was Zemo that flopped. You know what I mean? Like, this is your title character.
Yeah, that's
and you did him wrong. Like, the best part of the movies were him at the cookout or him playing with the cousins. You know what I mean? Like, or the nephews. those were the best parts of for him in the show.
Best moments. He never had a great fight scene. What was up with that?
He had some decent fight. He had a couple of fight scenes.
They were all right.
Yeah, there was nothing like over the top.
Well, here's where and this is something that the MCU, we'll move past this real quick, people. But
yeah.
This is something the MCU has done the whole time. They focus so much on his arm. Yes, I understand.
Did you know he has a metal arm?
But the whole point is, him and Steve are the same super soldier, but Bucky actually has the arm. And in the Winter Soldier, the movie, they stressed that it was an even fight, except for Bucky has the arm, Steve has the shield. In this show, it was so much like he was a normal dude with a super arm. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then every now and then, he should have mopped and then he did every now and then, like the real Bucky came out, but he should have mopped the floor with everybody in this show.
Yeah.
So I think they just kind of they made him too.
Like, the power was the arm. Yeah.
Yes. And they focus way too much on that, which, by the way, when the Wakandans ripped his arm off in that episode,
was pretty incredible.
One of the coolest things.
But doesn't that hurt his appeal as the title character though?
But that's the whole problem. As a super soldier, I like the Dora Milaje, but they have no chance against the Winter Soldier. I don't know what was with the power set. I don't, is it fading as he gets older? It was kind of weird. So
maybe it's him holding back because of the respect of, what they did for him, and like they still have a job to do. Like, they're very like, this is the rule and this is what we have to do.
Or maybe he just wishes he was Brad Pitt and it's not going to happen. I think he thinks he's Brad Pitt, and
wouldn't Brad Pitt be a better?
He would be an awesome Winter Soldier.
I think Keanu Reeves actually would be the best Winter Soldier.
I think you're right, and it makes me upset now that he's not.
Yeah,
it makes me so upset now that Keanu Reeves is not the Winter Soldier. That I'm thinking about protesting. I'm thinking about nobody.
They're supposed to be bringing him in as someone.
Nobody can watch Marvel movies in my bar until Keanu Reeves is the Winter Soldier.
No one is invited to Hunt Manor until
nope, until Keanu Reeves gets his due. Yeah, that's fair. I'm glad we got to. How's it going, Brandon?
What's up, Brandon?
And I'm glad we got to besmirch the MCU Winter Soldier. I feel bad about it. I feel like we said a lot of good things tonight, and here's what's funny. My wife is rolling her eyes right now because she's got to be like, he's got to let this go. He's got to let the Winter Soldier go.
I'm sorry I'm feeding into this.
Oh, you are. You're definitely fueling the fire. That is it. So real quick, we'll, as we normally do, these will be fairly vague here. We're going to do some predictions.
Sure.
So what do you, we've touched on a lot of them, but what do you think outside of the Winter Soldier just having his own 56 run series outside of Winter Soldier Part 3 and 4. Where do you think we're going to go with this?
Oh man, this is tough because we're starting to get integrated into more like so we know Spider-Man's going to be around, we know that Captain Marvel is going to be around. We know that Vision and Wanda, they look like they're going to be around, and the White Vision is running around somewhere too.
Somewhere.
Somewhere,
How awesome
probably
would that have been if he'd have showed up?
probably going to be forming the West Coast Avengers with Hawkeye and his daughter, but whatever. Um,
Who's
I don't
worse,
know.
Hawkeye or Winter Soldier? Who's worse?
Hawkeye.
It's Winter. Is it?
It's Hawkeye. I don't know. I've
I think
never
if those
really.
two switch, they're both better as the other character.
I don't know. You might have just blown my mind a little bit there. But back to the predictions. I mean, obviously,
you're trying to keep me on track.
U.S. Agent is going to be a big part of probably maybe the Dark Avengers and
Oh, I'm in. I'm all
Here's
in.
what I kind of don't agree with. Zemo coming in, but again, if it's the Dark Avengers, basically what the Dark Avengers are is they're the MCU's version of the Suicide Squad, right? So they're not really people that you would.
Comparison.
You're not people. They're not people who you would normally see together, nor would they want to be together. And the reason I bring that up is, Zemo obviously doesn't like super people. So maybe temporarily they convince him to work alongside U.S. Agent to take out the other super people. Meanwhile, he's got this ulterior motive, like, hey, I can use this guy to help my mission, and then when we're done, I can take him out too, type of thing. So maybe we do get him in the Dark Avengers. I hate that Hydra's kind of coming back because I just want there to be something else. There's the Roxxon Corporation that they can go with. Like, there's a number of other great MCU, like, number of just bad guys with, henchmen that they could use. But I mean, it's made them money. So I also understand that, like, maybe they want to keep some of the fans that they had at the beginning, because maybe they're worried about introducing so much new that they're worried that they're going to lose off some of the viewers that they had before.
I wonder that too, if they're like, how far can we go with this? But I think I've always said the fact that they made Guardians of the Galaxy gives them a lot of it gives them a lot of backbone going forward, because they're like, no, if they'll go for that, they'll go for anything.
What's crazy is we're gonna have the Skrulls at the same time as Hydra, possibly. So, like, that's gonna be weird how they do that. I don't know. I'm still gonna hold on to Norman Osborn's coming at some point.
We have Loki coming in June.
Yep, Loki's coming in June.
Is it even going to factor in? I have no idea.
We don't know what the timeline is.
I think that it's pretty much a done deal now that we're getting a Captain America movie, which will be Sam's, Captain America movie, which is super cool.
Perfect.
Yeah. And I want it to be I hope it's just a Captain America movie. Like, don't set up a 5-movie run, don't bring in, Galactus or something. Just do a Captain America
insane
movie. Yeah. One of these days we're going to get Galactus,
which is going to be incredible.
Yeah, it's going to be, I assume that they'll, in the Fantastic Four, we'll finally get Galactus. I don't know. But I think we'll get the Captain America movie. I think Bucky is going to move into like an administrative role. I really do. Like,
I don't know if I buy that, but I mean,
chilling out. Yeah. I don't know if we ever see him fight too much again, any more than maybe like just a random punch, like, you know who I am kind of guy. Next time we see him,
Jimmy Woo work together.
Yeah. Situation. Oh my, see, I'm in now. See, I think that works. I keep saying that works. And then I'll be having a podcast here in 4 years about how bad I hate the Winter Soldier Jimmy Woo, because I love Jimmy Woo.
Yeah.
They kind of did him wrong at the end of WandaVision, to be fair. It could have been more. Jimmy, but yeah, I think they'll do that. And I think, we got to get the Dark Avengers, like you said. And then after that, I really don't know. I think between this and WandaVision, if I'm running Marvel for Disney, I got to sit back. I got to take a breath and go, because I think that this show had the the highest views ever in its debut, even ahead of WandaVision. So
WandaVision set the tone, though.
yeah, oh no, exactly. But I think if you're making, if you're at Disney and Marvel, you got to sit back and go, okay, we can do whatever we want now.
Well, especially now that like Loki's coming out, you can literally do whatever you want when that series is done.
You want right now. You have great actors. Everybody's on. If you can get Elaine to do your show, we haven't even seen Black Widow yet, so we don't even know what that's going to lead us into. What that's going to
the Eternals are going to be coming out soon.
Oh, geezy, Pete. So yeah, I think it's good. I think that for after Endgame, we were all a little nervous, but looking back, I think Marvel's in a good situation. I think they can do whatever they want. I think they've proven that we can essentially trust them. Like, they just give us something, let us enjoy it. We'll figure it out on the fly, and it's going to be good. So that's where I'm at with that. I love this show. I love doing this podcast. It stinks. This is it. We don't have anything coming up. This is the last setting the screen for a while. We don't Unless know what the next
do Mortal Kombat movie.
We could. You know what? If you say it, it's kind of done, because I could discuss a little Mortal Kombat. That was fun over the weekend. So maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll have a bonus episode of Setting the Screen coming up, Mortal Kombat movie. And that sounds like, actually, we got invited to do a Mortal Kombat while we were on the show tonight. I don't know if you noticed.
Great.
That. Yeah.
No, I didn't see. Let me click over in the comments.
Yeah, I was in the comments there.
Oh, for Dustin. Yeah, nice.
Yeah. You deserve to work with Dustin. You want to talk about a pro. That's a pro's pro.
Well, now I'm nervous. I don't.
No.
Yeah, Mortal Kombat was great. I mean,
it was good.
Not to get off into a rabbit hole,
they should have put the Winter Soldier in it. It would have been better.
Jimmy Woo.
No. All right, everybody. That was Setting the Screen. That was the wrap up for the Captain
America.
By the way, real cool at the end. Captain America.
Dope send off.
The show was good. This podcast is better. We thank everybody that listens. We thank everybody that's watched. Steven, I can't thank you enough for doing this with me. It's been.
Thanks for having me.
I realize overall now, Setting the Screen, it's been like 3 months that we've been doing this, and it's a blast. I look forward to it every time. Sounds like we may have some more coming up in the next week or so, which is awesome. So once again, you can check me and Steven out on our other podcasts at offtheballnetwork.com, or sports podcasters on the other side of it. Check Steven out on Twitter at, what is it, Steven? BTG?
Yep. Nailed it.
Yep. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. At BTG. That doesn't sound right. Is that it?
Yeah. That's at Steven BTG. That's for
at
breaking
Steven
the game.
BTG. Yeah. Go check it out. Everything he says has thought behind it. I promise. You can find me obviously at Jeff Needs Help. You can find me at Jeff Needs Sports. You can find me at JHunt006 on Twitter. We love all you guys. Thanks for the support along the way. We have a great time doing this. Be kind to each other. Have a great week, and we will see you soon.
Much love, everybody.